Hi, I'm Bill Malik. This is the third in a series of videos demonstrating a joint solution between EnterpriseWeb and Red Hat for Telco-grade Agentic AI. In the previous sessions, I built a LangGraph agent using the EnterpriseWeb platform in a matter of minutes by having a simple natural language conversation with the system. And in the previous demo, I used that new agent to actually talk to the network and deploy and manage a new network service. In this demo, the last in the series, you'll see me go behind the scenes and take a deep dive on the AIOps that are behind the agent and the platform in general, including looking at things like traces of the agent's activities and interrogating its performance via semantic views that are generated in Snowflake. So just recapping what we did previously, you saw in the first demo that we created a set of LangGraph agents, including a coordination agent. In the second demo, we used that coordinator agent to actually talk to our network. We were able to ask questions about the network services that were there and interrogate their health. We were even able to order a new service. And then finally, we actually got to the point where a network event occurred here in terms of it detected a problem with performance, and it was able to start a root cause analysis that determined AIOps policies were not activated. We turned them on. Right? Now, what's going on behind the scenes, though, once we turn them on, is actually sort of autonomous networking that's going on our behalf behind the scenes. It reports back to these agents and so on, but if you notice in the original demo, we went in and we looked at a dashboard that spiked. Now, the thing is, we haven't turned off that flood of traffic. You'll notice the latency here is changing slightly as time goes. We have continuous optimization that's going on behind the scenes within the system. Basically, it's doing micro adjustments to the service throughout its life cycle based on the kinds of telemetry it's pulling back from either the Snowflake data cloud, directly from a Prometheus collector, etc. If we go back into EnterpriseWeb, we can see this reflected. Right? We can actually go and look at a stream of events here that are happening in terms of AIOps. And you'll see that these are happening as, they're actually flooding in here in real time as they occur. And you'll see that they're impacting the latency itself and the power consumed. They're keeping it optimal by making changes in particular functions, scaling them in and out, and so on. And you'll notice that they're not using very many tokens. This is one of our benefits. We reduce the kind of use of an LLM to what we call wildcard inference. So very simple, targeted enrichment by an LLM. And at any point, we can drill into this and actually see what's sort of a mini RCA and remediation all happening in one place, right? We can actually see something coming in from an AI/ML event right through to the system identifying the sources, determining what they are, actually running something in our graph data cloud. So our connected graph database, we're actually doing some clustering in this case. To figure out if there are downstream impacts, since these things don't happen in isolation, right? So the entire system, its AI, becomes safe for all the operations that it's going to run. It can do things like detection or prediction, and eventually it will tell us the story right down to the point of what exactly it consumed in terms of LLM inference, what it figured out as a remediation. Here it's to scale out this particular function, and it'll capture things like the changes that were needed in particular configurations to accomplish this. And eventually even give us a lower level of detail that we might want for every one of the interactions that we might have had, right? So we get a full story of the AIOps in terms of EnterpriseWeb. We get this extended out to the agent itself, so it's aware of its own behaviors, right, and the things that it does. So we can look at literally an agent trace here. We saw this in one of the demos at the beginning of working with the agent. We could go in and look at the kinds of things that it does, right? Which of the domain-specific agents it uses for something like ordering a service, and exactly what the operations are that it ends up executing. That for something like in the case of this AIOps, right? We actually got to a simple interaction with the component you see behind us where we received an alert, it forwarded our RCA to us, and we were actually able to authorize the fix, which was to start that optimization chain, right? So there's different ways of being able to view the sort of impact of the AIOps. And sort of the final one here that's really the one that's pretty exciting in terms of low-level auditing of the agents themselves is that we can go into OpenShift, right? So let me pop into that here, or sorry, not OpenShift. We can go into Snowflake, right? And we can actually see that in the Snowflake data cloud, in addition to tables that are used for really those metrics and telemetry that we're using within our agent, the system actually built something called a semantic view. It pushed in tables that were going to represent things like latency savings. Let's see what the other ones are. The operations themselves, etc. Really, the kinds of low-level data that were going to be needed for figuring out things like how efficient the agents actually operate, what its impacts are, etc. And not only pushing that data in, which is streaming in real time, but also what we did was we set up as part of this what they call a semantic view, which is really the ability for the system, you can see it's just created now, to use its LLMs, right, to actually interrogate or ask questions about basically the operations of the agent. You can see in a low, in a lot of detail here if you want to go through it, you can see what exactly our system pushed in using the ontology to configure this, right? But what's easiest is really just to see the impact of it, which is what it allows their LLM to do in this case, right? So I can ask questions, right? What are the average impacts of each operation by the agent? So this Cortex analyst will interpret the question, use all the metadata that we pushed in. You can see it's actually doing, it was a little bit quick there, but it actually does text to SQL conversion for us that's going to be accurate, informed by our ontology, all those kinds of good things. And it was able to actually answer our question really rapidly based on that data that's in there. So we get multiple views of the impact of that agent that's all set up for free, basically as part of the joint solution. In this final demo, you saw me do a deep dive on the AIOps behind our agents that we developed in the previous demos. But if you take the entire set in summary, what you saw was me go from building an agent within a couple of minutes to something that was highly capable and was able to manage my network. And again, we did it without a single line of code. We did it leveraging our Telecom Ontology and the power of the infrastructure, AI, and model management provided by Red Hat under the scenes, using EnterpriseWeb's ontology to make the job easy. Thank you.